Greetings. Good morning. This is the Zoom service for August the 2nd at Unity Spiritual Center of Panama City. I'm Ron Holdaway, LUT and spiritual leader, and I'm blessed to see your faces today, the ones that are joining us online, and welcome to everyone who's going to watch this a little later on YouTube. So it's really a blessing to have this service and be with you. I was thinking about all the chatter that we had before the service here, and it's just so good to get together, even like this. It's just really, really good for me. So we have, I said, as we were starting this, I said we have a strange face. It's not strange. It's unfamiliar face that may be unfamiliar to you, not to me, but to you. And that's Ron Carstetter. Hi, Ron.
Morning, all. Good to see you all.
Yeah, Ron, if you saw the MailChimp or looked on the web or on Facebook, you saw that we're having a guest speaker today. Ron is Ron Karstetter. He is at the Unity of Fairfax, Unity Fairfax in Virginia, and that's a very prominent church in the Unity movement. He is a licensed Unity teacher and an ordination candidate in the field ministry program like me. Ron's a few months ahead of me, and he serves on the staff at Unity of Fairfax as the community care coordinator. And as he puts it, he is a lifelong true student and has a passion for teaching and creating safe and sacred space to other spiritual explorers in their awakening and unfoldment. Now, a little bit of personal, I'm sure this will come out a little bit, but from me, this is a treat for me because Ron and I have been together for over 2 years through this process of LUT process, and it's very intensive at Unity Village. And so he and I call each other Brother Ron, and the others that know us call us the Do-Rons. So Ron and I really are very, very close, and I'm proud to call him my brother. So you'll hear more about Ron and what he's going to share with us today, and I know your heart and your soul will be touched. So Ron, we'll hear from you later unless you have something you want to share with us right now.
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, so we're going to start off today. Becky said right when we were starting that she read the article in the magazine or the booklet Worthy this morning by Michael Gott. And so many of you may not know him. So we're going to start off with a little taste of Michael Gott this morning. And if somebody does not have their microphone muted, I hear something in the background. So if you're willing to mute that, I'll see if I can mute it for you. If not, we'll keep going. So here's a music. Michael Gott is the minister, is the senior minister at Unity of Houston. Still got some background noise.
In the meantime, we'll try to get.
I think it's Jerry's.
Yes, Jerry. Okay, I'll silence him. Okay, Jerry, I just silenced you. Muted your mic. That is not to silence you, but just muted your mic. So let's start with this. Let me share this screen and we'll get a little taste of Michael Gott before we hear from Ron.
There was a time in my life, thought I had to do it all for myself. Didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was there. But now I can say you are discouraged. Still running just to make it through another day. Gotta let it go. listening? You got to let it all go. And this is what you have to say. I release and I let go. And the Spirit of my life and my heart is open wide. It's time only for God. No more struggle, no more strife. In my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, I release. I let go in the Spirit of my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. I'm only here for God. Oh, I am free in the Spirit. Do you want to be free? Let me hear you say yes. Yes, I'm only here for God. I know.
So that's a good way to get our energy and our juices flowing today for this celebration service. And yes, exactly. I can just picture us if we were together physically, we'd be shouting just like the crowd was there. So that's Reverend Michael Gott. He is quite an entertainer. He had a career in as a musician and still does a lot of recording in Unity. And so I thought that would, if you haven't heard of him, you can find out more about him, of course, online. So again, as I mentioned, we're honored that you've taken the time to listen to this service or join us here online. You know, we affirm in Unity that everyone is welcome here at our center in Unity, and we affirm that there are no exceptions to that. Everyone is welcome. How could it be any other way? The same energy, life energy, flows through each of us, regardless of our race, gender, religion, or sexual orientation. Whatever name you use for God, whether it be spirit, breath, allness, ground of being, we know that God by any name, and Unity leaves no one out. So welcome here to each and every one of you. So I wanted to share just a minute to acknowledge what we're going through as a community, as a country, as a planet, as a citizen on the planet. We're here today and still in challenging times. There's so much going on. It's hard to even list them, what's going on. First of all, I can't believe that it's August. Can you believe that it's August?
No.
Yeah, COVID-19. COVID-19 is still, it's minimized. I'm minimizing to say it's still with us because the cases and deaths around the world and our country are increasing. We have a tropical storm on the east coast of Florida, and thank goodness it's not as bad as it was originally predicted, but it's still something that we have to deal with, and especially the people that live over there. The social unrest is still with us. There's economic challenges. Opening of the schools and the safety of our children, teachers, and parents is a concern. And then we had, for many people, it was just a a sobering week with the transition of John Lewis today, and I'm going to share a little bit about that in a minute. But I read an article in the Washington Post about a superintendent of schools in Arizona, and this is what he said. He said, "This is my choice, but I'm starting to wish that it wasn't. I don't feel qualified. I've been superintendent for 20 years, so I guess I should be used to making decisions, but I keep getting lost in my head. I'll be in my office looking at the blank computer screen, and then somebody can silence their phone, if you will. I'll pause a minute so we don't have to talk over that. I don't see there's somebody. Okay, sorry about that. But anyhow, he says he'll be in his office looking at a blank computer screen. Then all of a sudden he realized that an hour's gone by. He says, I'm worried about everything. Each possibility I come up with is a bad one. Now, this is a superintendent of schools in a small school system in Arizona. And this week, actually yesterday, personally, a friend of mine from the hospital that I work in frequently in Houston, one of his staff one of his staff members died from the COVID-19. Like, I just can't imagine what they're going through. They're working, this is the maintenance staff that keeps this very large hospital going. And he says it's just unbelievable. He's working 7 hours a day, barely taking any time. So the people that it just brings it so home to me. It's almost humbling to think that we've got people that like him and his staff that are keeping people safe in the hospital. I mean, they've got, I think last count was 120 COVID patients in their hospital. So my heart goes out to them, and it's very touching. So this pandemic is still real. And if anybody, I pray for people who think that it's not real, because it is. So let's open with prayer. Before we go any further in our service, let's open with prayer. So I invite you to close your eyes and breathe in and out just for a moment, just to breathe in, and let's breathe in the truth of who we are, the essence of love, the presence of the divine. That's who we are. Know this for yourself in this moment. Intuitively know it. It's not something we find in a book. Nobody has to tell us. If we just pause long enough, we know this is who we are. So there's a Buddhist practice that we'll do here for a minute, just to acknowledge these times that we're having. It's not to take these in and hold on to them, but it's just to not acknowledge these challenges. So in this time of all these concerns that we set in this time of heaviness, of concern, and we connect with the brothers and sisters all around the world, and particularly in the US and those close to us. So in this practice of truth, of who we are, the truth of knowing who we are, we breathe in the pain and anxiety and fear of this COVID-19. We breathe it in, and then we release it, just like Michael Gott said, I release and I let go. So breathing in and then let go, and we breathe out love. The way we let it go is to breathe out love. We breathe in the uncertainty of these economic conditions. So breathe it in and then let it go with love. Breathe out love. We breathe out any anxiety over divisiveness in our country. We breathe it in, and then we release by breathing out love. For we know we are surrounded by peace when we rest within ourselves in the truth of our being. Breathe in and release. And so it is. We affirm it to be. Amen. Almost a continuation of our opening prayer, I wanted to share with you something that really spoke to me, reading John Lewis's article. If you don't know, he wrote an article before his death, and he asked for it to be read on the day of after his death. And so he said, this is a part of it, and I encourage you to go read the whole thing because it's just so inspiring. He said, each of us has a moral obligation to stand up, speak out, and speak up. When you see something that is not right, you must say something. You must do something. Democracy is not a state. It is an act, and a generation must do its part to help build what we call the beloved community, a nation and a world society at peace with itself. Ordinary people with extraordinary vision can redeem the soul of America by getting in what he calls good trouble, necessary trouble. Voting and participating in the democratic process are key. The vote is the most powerful nonviolent change agent you can have in a democratic society. You must use it because it is not guaranteed you can lose it. You must also study and learn the lessons of history because humanity has been involved in this soul-wrenching existential struggle for a very long time. People on every continent have stood in your shoes through decades and centuries before. The truth does not change, and that is why the answers worked out long ago can help you find solutions to the challenges of our time. Continue to build union between movements, stretching across the globe, because we must put away our willingness to profit from the exploitation of others. That was a portion of his talk, and I'll encourage you to, like I say, encourage you to read it in whole. Yeah, it's just right to pause and feel those words and feel that essence of him still being with us. I think his teachings will be what gets us through a lot of this. His teachings and words and his persona, the history of this man is just phenomenal. So rest in that for a few moments. You can join us on our online presence throughout the week, Tuesday, 6 p.m. for a Zoom call with Rose and Rose Flora facilitating Course in Miracles. You can join us at 8 o'clock. That's at 6 o'clock on Thursdays. You can join us at 8 o'clock on Wednesdays for a coffee and chat for midweek. And there's no agenda for that. That's just to come in and touch base and share what's on your heart and your mind and whatever it is. That's on Wednesday at 8 a.m. and then meditation at 11 a.m. On Thursdays. You can find all these details on the website and in our email blast, MailChimp, and also on Facebook. If any of you have prayer requests, please send them to me, or you may go online to our website, unityofpanamacity.org, and click on prayer requests. It'll prompt up a form and you can fill that out. It'll go directly to Silent Unity. The ones that you send to me, you can call me or email me. I'll hold for 7 days in prayer, and then we'll send them to Unity Village. So don't hesitate to reach out if you need prayer. And as I say every week, thank you for all those who continue to bless us with our, bless this spiritual community with your tithes and offers. We are truly blessed by your giving. Your presence in our community is important. So bless you for continuing to give. Our expenses are down. Our income from you, tithes and offerings, are only slightly down. So we're doing okay. So we thank God for that. Thank the Spirit for that. So you can donate by going to the website, hitting the donate button on the website, or you can mail a check to Unity of Panama City, P.O. Box 16046. So together we affirm our blessings and our abundance. So if you would, ever how you give, put your hands together and feel this energy, this loving energy of our abundance in life, and say the affirmation with me. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Amen. So as you know, we're kicking off our, this is the first Sunday in our new booklet that we're doing our themes for August, Worthy. So I was looking for what this is about, and I love the tagline on this booklet. It says LGBT LGBTQ, Stories of Overcoming Rejection and Religion-Defined Truth. So that is so powerful. There's so many stories of that, not only in the LGBT community, but particularly in that community that we can all benefit from. And we're all healed as we hear these wonderful stories. So, and the key to that and what's in this booklet is being authentic, being our authentic self. And so the daily word today is about that, speaking to our, following our authentic self. So if you would, we'll begin our time in quietness and just listen to these words about being your true self from the daily word. I am free to be my true self. I am free to be my true self. Today I may be called to fill many roles: parent, child, spouse, partner, friend, neighbor, co-worker, consumer, citizen, whatever. As I contemplate the unwavering power of infinite love, I understand that my true self, my authentic self, is divine. I know how to speak and act for the highest good of all concerned. I express myself with courage and compassion. In strife, my words and actions brings peace forward, reconciliation, and wholeness. In accord, my contribution is a magnet for joy, beauty, and abundance. Trusting my authentic self, I call upon the glory of my infinite potential to transform ordinary circumstances into magnificent possibilities. I am free to be my true self. And in your mind, affirm that with me. I am free to be my true self. Now we'll listen to the word, the music, the song, Breathe by Megan McDonald as we prepare for meditation.
I breathe in and know. I breathe out and let go. Here in my heart, that's the right place to start. I just breathe. I breathe in to breathe. I breathe out and see what is true, right, and real. I'm alive, I am here. I breathe. Just breathe. Here in this moment, I'm in the flow. Here in this moment, I let go. an angel leaning over, whispering, grow, 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 I breathe in and know. I breathe out and let go. Here in my heart, that's the right place to start. I breathe, just breathe. Just
Let's breathe together, friends, as we move into this time of meditation. Let us enter into stillness. And as we do so, I invite you to close your eyes if that's comfortable, or to soften your gaze. As we turn our attention from outward distractions, so that we can more fully focus on the presence of God within. Together we breathe deeply and intentionally into the gift of this sacred moment, for this moment is our life. We gently and lovingly acknowledge any tension in the body and release it. And we do the same with any distracting thoughts, acknowledging and gently releasing them. Letting go of trying and simply showing up, being fully present in this now moment. Allowing ourselves the space and time to enter spiritual dimensions beyond the mind, beyond form, and beyond our own personal identity, and to connect deeply with pure being. Breathing together, we begin to feel the beauty and wholeness that is present within. Consciously releasing any thoughts of less than or not enough. Any images or messages that no longer serve. As we move with compassion into the sanctuary of our hearts. where we are grounded, where we are centered, where we are home, where we are one. We simply relax into this moment, into the flow of life. We are in a field of life, love, and pure intelligence. And we gratefully remember who we are at core. And for a moment, rest in that awareness, in the sacredness of the silence. I invite you to take a deep community breath and to feel your connection with one another and with all of creation. We are all deeply connected. We depend on one another more than we know. We are one body, one spirit, in and through the power of the indwelling Christ. We live, move, and have our being in a field of infinite wonder, in a sea of spiritual support. May these moments of mindfulness carry us through moments of the illusion into awakening. May they provide a firm foundation to meet each moment. And may this practice be of benefit to all. We take another deep breath together. Grateful for this time together. And gently return your attention to this time and space. And as you are ready, I invite you to open your eyes to celebrate this new day with a deeper awareness of Christ in you, your hope of glory. Namaste. I'm going to ask you to stay in your hearts. Just take another deep breath. This breath is the breath of God. breathing in through and as us. One God, all good, everywhere present, no separation. And we are that of God in expression, each and all an expression of the one. And so in this moment of connection with Source, with that of God beyond all names, I invite you to affirm, if you're comfortable, and even if you're not comfortable, I am worthy. Let's affirm that together. I am worthy. And so you are, and so I am, and so it is. Amen. So I am so grateful to be with you today, to begin this series with you, this small book packed with so much love and energy, entitled Worthy, LGBTQ Stories of Overcoming Rejection and Religion to Find Truth. These are personal, very personal stories that describe the lived experiences of people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning. And they are stories of struggle, overcoming, healing, transformation, and becoming. And as a gay man of faith myself, there were elements in each of these stories that are very relatable. Different backgrounds, different faith experiences, and yet many common threads. This book sat on my desk here at the church for over a month without me touching it. And when this invitation came along, I read the one passage of Michael Gott for today, and then I kept reading, and I kept reading, and I finished it in one reading, the whole book. And I'll probably go back and read it again. Every story resonated, and there was some connection point. So I would encourage you to read through the whole book at your leisure, even if you're not covering all of the stories in the series, because there's gems in each one of those stories that are worth hearing and holding on to. My sense is that these are not just meant to be feel-good stories, though. They're stories of awakening and transformation of consciousness from a unique perspective, and the new life that's born out of that internal work of self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-love. Certainly something to be celebrated, but perhaps even more, it's a call to action to acknowledge the alienation and pain that rejection and exclusion cause, and to commit to building that beloved community where all are welcome as unique expressions of God. That's what I'm choosing to believe. So, aside from being here with you today, I'm feeling very grateful to Unity for publishing this booklet, to those who were willing to step up and share their stories of overcoming and becoming, and to faith communities like yourselves for demonstrating truth and love by creating a safe and sacred space where the other, which of course we know is an illusion, can be seen, be authentic, be vulnerable, share their story, and know not just that they're included, but that they are welcome. When I was coming out in the last century, I couldn't imagine either such a booklet or a community where I was truly free to be. So I want to cover 3 points today with you. I want to look at Michael Gott's story, Becoming All of Me, and look at some universal themes that are relevant to all of us. And I'll share a snapshot of my own coming out journey. I want to take a look at the principle of oneness and how we get back to that principle of oneness, wholeness, wellness, and the teaching that it begins and ends in consciousness. And I'm going to refer to a passage in Emily Cady's book, How I Use Truth, to back that up. And then I want to look at the question, what is ours to do, by way of building the beloved community and co-creating a world that works for everyone. So let's dive in. And I want to start with a very simple question. What does it mean to know yourself as worthy? And you can take this as some homework if you want to do that. I don't know if you get homework here each week. We certainly do here at Fairfax. I have a school bag with me that goes home full every Sunday morning. So if you do have homework, or if you'd like some, what does it mean to know yourself as worthy? In consciousness first, and then in outward expression, and certainly from a new thought or a unity perspective. There is a line in the introduction of the booklet that for me nicely answers that question as it relates to this material. To be worthy is to come to know, understand, and love who you truly are and to see yourself within the whole, one with God. To know, understand, and love who you truly are, and to see yourself within the whole, one with God. So it's not looking outside ourselves for affirmation. It's discovering that of God within and affirming that I, you, we are each individual, unique expressions of God, which leads us back to a consciousness of oneness, wholeness, and wellness. So hold on to that idea as we look at Michael Gott's entry today, and as you look at other stories throughout this series. And so let's take a look at Michael's story, Becoming All of Me. It's a very short story, and as I was diving into it, lots coming up for me, lots to process. I have lots of homework beyond this talk to dive into. I was surprised how much was coming up relating to my own journey. Michael tells the story of growing up in a loving family, being happy and well-adjusted and feeling loved and accepted most of the time, but also knowing from a young age that there were spoken and unspoken messages of what he was expected to be as a boy, a white person, and as a Christian, and that he often didn't meet those expectations. He shares the story of receiving a doll from his babysitters at the age of 3. He loved the doll, and he brought it to Sunday school one morning, but his father was not okay with him carrying a doll in public. That's not how boys are supposed to act. The doll is taken away with much crying, and then life goes on for a 3-year-old. But the grief and confusion from that event are buried in his psyche, and they shape his life. At the age of 3, the belief that's formed in his consciousness as a result of this event is that if I show up as I really am, the people I love are harmed. And it's not until many years later, after he's done some internal work and created a life for himself as a gay man, that this painful memory from age 3 resurfaces, and he sees the impact that it's had on his life. He had become a people pleaser, and at an unconscious level, he was editing himself so that the people he cared for wouldn't be uncomfortable. It's in that moment of awareness that he was invited to live more authentically, to be more vulnerable, to take that next step in his unfoldment. And he reflects on the freedom, personal power, and deeper connections that are rooted in his vulnerability and authenticity. He also writes that being fully who he was gave his family, and his father in particular, the opportunity to question his own beliefs and assumptions that ultimately expanded his consciousness and healed their relationship. And he expresses gratitude for being a part of a spiritual community that recognizes his uniqueness as a gift from God. So I'd like to share a snapshot of my own coming out journey that specifically relates to overcoming religion to find truth. And I got to tell you, reading this book, these are such neat and clean little stories. And when I looked at my own journey, I can look back from the 10,000-foot level and see how I got to here. But when I get down into the weeds, there are a whole lot of details that I had to sort through to see what was worth sharing and what would be relevant to today. So this is one little snapshot. Michael Gott, like Michael Gott, my family was not perfect, but I grew up knowing that I was loved and cared for. I was raised Roman Catholic. I attended 12 years of Catholic school, and I knew at a very early age in my grade school years that I was different. I also knew that it wasn't safe for me to share that difference with anyone, in church, at home, in school. And I didn't know that by things that were said, it was just a feeling within myself. The Roman Catholic teaching then and now is that homosexuality is objectively disordered and intrinsically evil. The teaching today is added, love the sinner, hate the sin. Still a pretty tough judgment to live with as a child and even as an adult to reconcile. I did my best, not very successfully, to hide that part of my life by being the best little kid that I could be, with a whole lot of codependence loaded in. When I graduated from high school, I still was not out as gay. I had no gay friends or really no one that I could speak to about this part of my life. And I was feeling or dealing with a call to enter the Catholic priesthood. Wasn't sure how to balance those two things. That took a few years to work through. But I started this process to explore priesthood while I was at college. And I eventually and painfully, I'm skipping a whole lot of steps here, I eventually and painfully discerned that I couldn't reconcile my religion and my sexual orientation. And I walked away from both a vocation as priest and the mainstream Catholic Church, knowing that I would never have a place at the table within the mainstream as a gay Catholic. This was back in the 1970s and early 1980s. Soon after walking away from the Catholic community that I was a part of, I learned of an alternative LGBT Catholic community in Philadelphia named Dignity that had chapters around the country. I was living in Philadelphia at the time, and one Sunday evening made my way to a Dignity Mass that was held in a social hall in an Episcopal church. The room was on the second floor. It was called the Upper Room. And scared, closeted me walked into the room, packed with over 200 men and women, gay and lesbian Roman Catholics, with their hands standing, with their hands held together and their hands in the air, singing an old Catholic hymn entitled City of God. And they were singing the refrain, "Let us build the city of God, may our tears be turned into dancing, for the Lord our light and our love has turned the night into day." Now that's Catholic theology, but I can metaphysical that and make it relevant to us in Unity. In that moment, I knew that I was home. And I also realized that I needed to make some shifts in my own consciousness in the way that I showed up in the world, because God can't bless who you pretend to be. God can't anoint your avatar. So I came out. And once I dropped the facade and allowed myself to be seen, authentic and vulnerable, God showed up in the form of new friends and allies, a support system, a faith community that affirmed my sacred worth. And I eventually came to know that my worthiness was and is grounded in my knowing that my true nature is divine. And that same message is reflected in all of these stories in this little booklet. I'm guessing that if we removed LGBTQ from the title and just began talking about religion, exclusion, and those religious teachings that diminish the light of God, expression beyond, that many of us could relate. This journey of overcoming and becoming is universal. Though some groups of people, LGBTQ, people of color, people with disabilities, people who are disenfranchised in any way, often have more of a struggle because of heightened experiences of rejection, fear, or exclusion. But there are common threads or experiences that we all share. And as we co-create space to share these stories, the walls come down and we're on the road to oneness. So let's talk about oneness for a moment. The principle of oneness is summed up in our first two Unity principles. Number one, there is one presence and one power at work in my life and in the universe, God the good, omnipotence. And principle number two, our nature is divine, therefore we are inherently good. But as Ron shared earlier, we don't have to look very far in the world to see signs of separation. So how do we get back to oneness? Well, the work begins in consciousness. Emily Cady, in her book, How I Use Truth, speaks to this. She writes, while it is true that we are always one with God through our divine origin, we are consciously one with God when we recognize and accept our innate divinity and the divinity of all humankind. This recognition enables us to behold continually and habitually the good that is present everywhere. We show our own awareness of oneness with God when we leave others free to grow according to the divine pattern within. One with life, we lose our sense of separateness. There is only wholeness, only the many faces of the one. I hadn't known that passage before, and I'm really glad I found it. It really helps me to clarify this thought on oneness and how we actually demonstrate it, take this principle out of the absolute into the fourth dimension and work with it. So, with eyes to see that there is only wholeness, only the many faces of the one. That's the takeaway for me there. In case you are not aware, I just wanted to make you aware of Unity Worldwide Ministries diversity statement, which was published in August of 2016. A short passage of it reads that we recognize and honor the divine within as the one common denominator that we share on our human journey. We welcome with love all people in every form of God's creation, regardless of how that creation presents itself. We welcome and love all people in every form of God's creation, regardless of how that creation presents itself. Some more homework for me, maybe for you if you're willing to take it on. So how do we demonstrate this principle of oneness? Well, we begin with the person in the mirror and live from the awareness that the oneness, allness, and wholeness of God expresses at the point of me and you and us and them or the other. And then we allow that knowing to ripple out into the world in love. Ron mentioned John Lewis, a beautiful soul and a strong advocate for inclusion, who wrote a book entitled Across That Bridge, Life Lessons and a Vision for Change. He wrote in that book this passage which jumped out at me. The most important lesson I have learned in the 50 years I have spent working toward the building of a better world is that the true work of social transformation starts within. It begins inside your own heart and mind, because the battleground of human transformation is really, more than any one thing, the struggle within human consciousness to believe and accept what is true. Thus, to truly revolutionize our society, we must first revolutionize ourselves. The battleground of human transformation is really, more than any one thing, the struggle with the human consciousness to believe and accept what is true. What is true? I'll leave that for more homework for you to discern. We know in principle what it is. What is it for you? How does that show up in your life? And so think about that some more, because that's the key to this whole transformation here, how it shows up in my life personally, and then how I allow it to express through my life out into the world. And so this building of this beloved community that Martin Luther King Jr. spoke about requires first a transformation of consciousness. I mentioned that old Catholic song, City of God. Well, metaphysically, the city of God is our spiritual consciousness. It's that of God within, through and as us. Regardless of appearances of separation and less than, we are in truth the vibration of God in action. Let's affirm that together. I am the vibration of God in action. Together, I am the vibration of God in action. Work with that a little bit and see how that feels, and see if you can lean into that and live through that or from that awareness more authentically, more vulnerably. When we live from that awareness and connect with that of God and the other, we build a thought colony grounded in God. Grounded in God is I am consciousness, and the illusion of the other fades. And that's the city of God. From this consciousness, we see diversity as having a place at the table, inclusivity as having a voice at the table, and welcome as having a voice at the table that is heard and valued. And so we can talk about being diverse and celebrating diversity and inclusivity, and are we a welcoming community? Meaning that those who show up have a place at the table and a voice, and that their voice matters. This is the beloved community that we're working towards. And this is our work to bring it into manifestation. The bottom line, friends, is that it's all about love. And love has no gender, no race, no age, no disability, no religion, no labels. It's only love. Father Richard Rohr, who's a Catholic Franciscan priest, in one of his blogs last year wrote that unless you can see the Christ in the very next face you encounter, don't bother looking any further. Breathe. I'm giving you a lot of homework, or maybe I'm just giving it to myself. So let's return to Michael Gott and his story about becoming all that I am. He writes that this path to authenticity is universal. And he says that we are all here to discover who we are and to become part of the collective so that we may all be healed and we may all be finally and truly one. I leave that with you today, friends. That's our work in consciousness for ourselves and for each other. And these are challenging times, and truth is truth. And everything else is fact with a lowercase f. So let's focus our energy on the truth and live from that awareness and see what happens. It's transformative. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't saying yes to that spirit that's within me. And I'm grateful for that. I have no idea where it leads. I'm just walking in the mystery most days. And I think most of us are. But just keep saying yes and see what unfolds. So we are all here to discover who we are and become part of the collective, that we may all be healed, and we may all finally and truly be one. May it be so. Let us pray. Today I am seeing with the eyes of the divine. I am looking at things in a perfect and direct way. I am seeing through confusion to peace, through doubt to certainty, through fear to love. Quietly then, I review myself, those around me, and everything that occupies my attention, bringing them all to a broader vision, a deeper insight, a more complete perspective of the infinite harmony, which I know is back of, in and through everything that God has made. I am keeping my eyes single to this one truth. What God has done is good, therefore my experiences are good. What God has created is wonderful, therefore I am surrounded with good. In calm judgment then, I sit quietly within myself, and in my imagination look around and see everything according to the divine pattern. As I do this, everything I look upon shall be transformed and reborn. So let's take this affirmation of I am worthy to the next level. I am one with the consciousness of God's perfect life in me. Let's affirm that together. I am one with the consciousness of God's perfect life in me. You are one with the consciousness of God's perfect life in you. Let's affirm that for each other. You are one with the consciousness of God's perfect life in you. And collectively, we are one with the consciousness of God's perfect life in us. Let's affirm that for all of creation, for all of humanity. We are one with the consciousness of God's perfect life in us. Can I get an amen? Amen. I affirm peace and well-being for you, friends. I'm grateful to be with you today. I behold the Christ you are. Keep on keeping on.
Ron, this is the way we clap on Zoom and
Back at you.
and we share our love. So I think you guys know why when this opportunity came up to do this, why I asked Ron to be with us, because you definitely have taken us to church today. Taking us to church. Thank you so much, Ron.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Heart is overflowing. So, and thank you for the homework. I think that's a good thing. So
it is what it is.
It's a good thing. It's just what you do, right? Too much LUT and SDS work.
I'm just sharing it. Sharing the wealth.
Right. That's right.
Part of being in unity that we get homework.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We get to practice the truth we know when we do our homework.
Otherwise, it's just theory, as Charles said.
Right. That's exactly right. So thank you again. I'll behold the Christ in you as well. I'm sure that's for all of us here. We'll get a chance when I unmute everybody here in just a minute. We'll get a chance to say that to you. I have been remiss. I realized this week that I've been remiss throughout the week to say happy birthday to everyone in each month, and just out of the many things to do. And I think maybe I realized it this month because it was my birthday on July the 31st. So I probably realized that because I didn't wish myself happy birthday with you guys. So now I'm taking the opportunity to wish everybody in August who has a birthday in August, happy birthday. Anybody have a birthday in August? Nope, not on the call. Well, I've got a couple. Let's see, Becky sent me a couple, so we'll let everybody know whose birthday it is as we go for August. So happy birthday to anyone in August. So before we close with the prayer of protection, I wanted to leave you with one. Ron, it's we didn't coordinate that about sharing some of the stuff from John Lewis, but it's kind of shows you the connection. One last excerpt from his last op-ed that he wrote. He says, when historians pick up their pens to write the story of the 21st century, let them say that it was your generation who laid down the heavy burdens of hate at last, and that peace finally triumphed over violence, aggression, and war. So I say to you, walk with the wind, brothers and sisters, and let the spirit of peace and the power of everlasting love be your guide. Powerful, powerful words. So blessings to all of you. So I'm going to unmute everybody, see if I can, and then we'll do the prayer of protection. I'll say the first line, I'll say the line, and then you repeat it, just so that we can all get it. Unmute yourself, or I'll unmute if you can. And we'll close with a prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us.
The light of God surrounds us.
The love of God enfolds us.
The love of God enfolds us.
The power of God protects us.
The power of God protects us.
The presence of God watches over us.
The presence of God watches over us.
Wherever we are.
Wherever I am.
We are. God is.
Wherever we are.
We are.
Yes.
Okay,
We know it.
I'll stop the recording. And then we'll have some coffee and fellowship.
There's a couple down in the far right corner.
There we go.
Yeah.